Someone once told me, to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. I sat in that for a moment and thought, is that really true? Because from my experience, which was a very young experience at the time, I just saw leaders as people in positions of authority, whether it was my parents, a teacher, a boss. I didn't come to realize that leadership was not the title, but it was the mindset in which a person steps into a place of influence, a place of inspiration, a place of motivation, a place that can encourage and give hope, to bring unity and aspiration, to lead great nations and empower families and communities. I want you to think about why you're here at this time. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to get? What do I need? We're here, leaders living generously. Yes? Leaders living generously. When I was younger, I always aspired to be in control. Let's just get through the chase. I wanted to be in charge. I was the firstborn. I was always the team captain, the first to raise my hand to volunteer for different things in school. Whenever I was on a committee or in college, in some council, I always wanted to have either the lead or some critical supporting role that said, I'm in charge, I'm the go-to, I'm the big person in charge. Why was that? I think that was about ego getting in the way. Can some of us relate to that? There's a fantasy about leadership. There's a fantasy about what it is and what it can do for you. The feeling of empowerment and authority can take control, and it can serve for the good or the not so good. When ego gets in the way, when pride gets in the way, when your own selfish motives gets in the way, leadership can be a very frightful and imposing presence for the people around. And I began to think about how I was shaping myself based upon different people that I saw, who I saluted and heralded as leaders. But I only saw one side. I saw the authority. I saw the decisiveness. I saw the presence, right? I saw that the command that people seem to follow so willingly. And I wanted that. My father, who lived till 94 and just passed in September, was my greatest leader, advocate, coach, mentor. He was bigger than life to me and was throughout my whole life. But what I saw was one side of leadership. I saw the public face of leadership as I could perceive it in my limited view, or as the child whose parent was the head of the household. And how many of us are like that? We have this myopic view of that person or persons who we have identified as leaders. And then when we look in the mirror through our own experiences, right, those things that have been peppered into our subconscious, we then create this image, this avatar of ourselves that we step into in what we believe is now the face of leadership, the new face of leadership. And we want the world to know it. But 5 years prior to my father dying, during the pandemic, the most amazing thing happened. We took this uncertain time in global history to use it as a way to create and recreate our relationship in a way that embraced the power of communication. And what we did was I began to interview my dad and ask him questions about every aspect of life, how he thought. Because again, here I was, a woman in my late 50s thinking I knew the man. No, I knew dad, but I didn't know the man who I saw as this powerful leader. But in those intimate moments where we sat and we talked, I saw that this was a man who was very humble, a man who was able to assess situations prior to judging, prior to make a decision. He was willing to listen. He was willing to set aside his own personal agenda for the greater good. And I'm teasing out all of this information from him and then thinking about my journey as a leader. I was thinking about the roles that I had. And as I started to parallel his walk with my walk started to pale in comparison. Have you ever been there where you're looking at yourself and you're feeling pretty good, right? Your ego is quite inflated because you're thinking, I'm rocking this role. I'm rocking this journey of leadership, until you look at someone else who you admire and you realize, wow, I missed it. I missed it because I had been making leadership all about me. It was about me advancing my vision, me influencing others that my way was the best way, me looking at people and arrogantly saying, I see the diamond in you. You're the diamond in the rough. Let me help shape and mold you. Without asking, what is it that you want? How might I help you? And even though I had people following me and doing things that I was asking them to do, I had to ask myself, seriously, were they doing it willingly? Were they doing it simply because I was their superior? Were they doing it out of intimidation or fear? Was that really the type of leader I wanted to be? Did I even like the title of leader? And I sat and started to unpackage my concerns with my father. And he chuckled. And he asked me something that I had to really sit in. And it took me a moment. I couldn't answer him on the spot. I said, Dad, when we talk again, I'll have an answer for you. And he said, you're asking me all these leadership questions. Why do you want to be a leader? Number one. And number two, do you see yourself as a leader? And number three, if you do see yourself as a leader, how effective do you feel you are? So like I said, I didn't really have an answer. I thought, well, yeah, I'm a leader because I'm in this position. But then again, I had to think, wait a minute, leaders aren't just because of the position you hold. Why did I want to be a leader? And it took me a while to answer that. It wasn't about the pay. It wasn't about the celebrity that comes with leadership. It wasn't about the authority and telling people what to do and when to do it. I thought that was what I really wanted, but no. I realized I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be a leader who made an impact. I wanted to be someone who dared to go where others were afraid to go. I wanted to be that trailblazer who was willing to navigate the landmines so that life would be that much easier for someone else. I wanted to be that leader who took my lived experience and life lessons and translated it so that people would know how to see the opportunity in the chaos, to translate those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I wanted to be a leader because I wanted my life to matter. And I had such powerful energy and excitement and enthusiasm and zest for life and love for humanity that I thought, that's the why. So yes, I saw myself as a leader in position, meaning the actual physical position and title that I held. But I was a green bean when it came to actualizing everything that I wanted. See, my dad was telling me that we can put labels on ourselves all day long. We can say who we are all day long. But if the world isn't echoing back to us that truth, then we have to ask ourselves, am I really there yet? We often hear, are leaders born? Are they made? Could be a little of both. I tend to think it's a little of both. I think there are some innate qualities that individuals have that once nurtured in the right environment and in the right way can flourish and blossom and allow them to rise up in a strength and a presence at a certain place and time in this journey of life, to lead, to motivate, to encourage, to empower, to equip. I wanted that. And then I thought about, as I sit here today before you, thinking about leaders living generously. Leaders living generously. What did that mean? We hear servant leaders. I knew that I was, because I was always giving. I wanted to give. I wanted to serve. I wanted to help. But I was doing it in the wrong way. And sometimes we find ourselves so passionate, so enthusiastic, that we are like a bulldog in a china shop, right? We're just too assertive. We're too in your face. And we need to understand where people are, to love them where they are, to lead them from where they are to where they want to go, to aspire them through our lived experience.
Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators with award-winning business strategist and financial analyst LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. With Raw Talk, we are empowering women to rise and succeed in business and finances and improve the world for the next generation. Get ready to get raw and real. Live each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
And so I want to just leave you with 6 things that I've given some deep thought about. And I realize that in my journey, as I've gone through struggles, as I've gone through my own mindset challenges, as I've gone through divorce, cancer, almost bankrupt, my business partner leaving me, struggling with trying to keep a business afloat during the 2007-2008 mortgage crisis, when everything seemed to be hitting the fan, I realized that somehow I kept rising, right? As Maya Angelou says, yet still I rise. I kept rising out of the ashes. I kept rising from the pit of despair. And I wanted to be able to take these experiences because I knew there was a greater purpose for them, because there was some connection with all of them. One after another, after another, after another, just dismal experience taught me that I needed to have leadership, guidance, mentorship to help me get out of where I was to the next level. And then I needed that same leadership, guidance, mentorship, coaches to help me expand at that next level. And as I reach to the next level, it's the same thing, right? So how many of you feel really good, you feel really confident and cocky because you've gotten to one place, but then when you go to the next level, you're like this small fish in this huge ocean, and these tsunami waves are coming upon you, and you're wondering, what did I just do? How can I survive? How do I lead these people behind me when I'm in a state of panic myself? The one thing is being aware of your environment, being so conscious and so in tune to your environment that you're able to see the indicators. And when you see the indicators, you're able to position yourself to not be on the sidelines wondering what just happened, or be overtaken by the wave of change. But you want to ideally be in front of that wave, or at least riding that crest of the wave. Now, what puts you in the best position to do that, I believe, are 6 key things. The first is giving without hesitation. I find that individuals that truly embody the heart of a leader, the servitude of a leader, is that individual who is willing to give of themselves, of their time, of their knowledge, of their resources to help someone else. See, it's not always about the dollar. I personally have a pet peeve with individuals who every single thing they do for someone, they always put a price tag on it. Or if you go to them for something, they're trying to see, how can I'll help you, but if you're going to sell it, I need to get a slice of what you're doing. Where is the heart in knowing that you're a person of influence and a person who can provide and give from your place and seed of abundance, right? That knowledge abundance, that resource abundance, that time abundance that you may have. I also realize that leaders are kind. There's kindness. When we're thinking about leaders living generously, these are the tenets of generosity. It's being kind. It doesn't take much to be kind. It could be a smile. It could be a compliment. It could be asking someone, how is their day? See, when people know that you care, then people will care what you do and will want to join in your vision. They remember how you make them feel, but not so much always what you do. And some may say, LaWanna, that's too warm and fuzzy. I don't want to get into that emotional feel space. But in times of crises, in times of challenge, in times of high stress, kindness goes a long way. empathy, compassion, understanding, communication, right? The third principle I want you to think about when you think about as a leader, I want you to ask yourself, am I investing in others? Am I willing to invest in others? Am I willing to take my knowledge, my experiences, and start to build the next generation of leaders? Because I'm not going to be here forever. And I've learned a lot along the way. Now, I want to be able to impart. So at this point in my journey, I want to impart. I don't want to always do the work. I don't want to always be in the limelight. But I want to be that person who's imparting so that the next generation can take what I've given them and build upon it and do greater and better and more impactful things than I could ever dream of doing. What type of leader do you want to be? I want you just to take a moment and just think about those 3 things that I mentioned. We talked about investing in others, being kind, giving without hesitation. A gentleman by the name of Chris Salem said, you should give without hesitation and receive without resistance, because giving and receiving is the same energy, right? So you're giving with open hands, and your hands are still open as they're ready to receive that which is meant for you. Now let's go into the next phase, is serving. And serving has so much more meaning when you're able to do it purposefully. Why do you do what you do? When you serve with purpose, it is fire in your bones. You wake up excited every day. I believe when you are living your purpose, it is so much like lifeblood to you that you'd be willing to do it for free because you love what you do so much. I often challenge individuals when I'm coaching and talking to them about what they're doing and their why, their so what factor. I say, okay, if you wouldn't get paid for any of this, how long would you do it? And sometimes I'll get, oh, well, maybe a couple months, but I got to make money. But what I want to hear is, oh my gosh, I would just keep doing it. I'd find another way to bring money in, but this, I've got to do it. This is my why. I'm here for this purpose. I can't just put a price on it because I believe when we're living in our purpose, ladies and gentlemen, it's priceless. When you're living in your divine calling, why you're here, all your gifts and talents are aligned for this appointed time. It's priceless. There is no price high enough to pay for why you're here. And I believe that's what purposeful living truly is. Now, I'm not saying don't put a price on what you do. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm asking if what you're doing is totally dependent on who's paying you and how much you're getting paid. Your purpose may or may not be intertwined in that. So ask yourself, would I still do this for free? Do I love it so much that I'd be willing to do it for free? My father said, find something in life that you'd be willing to do, that you love so much that you would be willing to do it for free, and you never work a day in your life. And I believe that. I believe that when we are living in our purpose and in our passion, that's joy. That's the sweet spot. That's the delight. I was watching a documentary about Kobe Bryant, and he talked about when he first handled the basketball, there was something that changed in him. His whole mindset, everything was about becoming the best in that. he was suddenly inspired by being equipped with the knowledge of his why, his purpose, and he lived it. And that's what I want for each of you, to live generously, on purpose, on fire for your calling. And when you do that, the fifth element is you are able to be in that constant seat of gratitude. You are so thankful. You don't have to wait for something to come to be thankful for it. You're just elevating in expectation for all the goodness, all the opportunities, even being thankful in the trials and tribulations that come, because through that we grow. We become expansive. See, I will never know who I am if things are always good. But when I have to go through some obstacles, when I have to go through some trials, that's when God shows me what I'm made of. And that's what I believe as leaders. We see, once we go through things, once we help people through things, we see what we're really made of. And then the last thing is legacy. I think great leaders leave a legacy, whether they're consciously thinking about leaving a legacy or it just unfolds. I believe a great leader leaves an indelible mark for generations to follow. And that's what I want for each of you. I want you to be able to leave your indelible mark. I've gone through a lot of things. I've talked about giving without hesitation. I've talked about gratitude and being kind and investing in others and serving with purpose and leaving a legacy. And it's like, well, how do I do all of this? Well, it's through a system. And the system is called the R3 system, which enables you to take all of this information, all of these components of you, and put them in a systematic way that enables you to execute with precision as a leader. I call it the R3 system. In the high stakes world of business and sports, time isn't just ticking, it's explosive. Where the elite forge their path, where champions and visionaries aren't just participating, they are leading. Welcome to the R3 system, your exclusive strategy in a world where the only constant is change. Refocus with clarity. Reframe with innovation. Reconnect to lead. R3 isn't just a plan, it's a revolution in strategy. This is the domain of achievers, on the field, in the marketplace, at the forefront of progress. With over 30 years of award-winning expertise in fields from defense, sports, finance, the Bradford Group knows victory. Their winning attitude and team power aren't just concepts. They are your strategic advantage. It is your time to stand out, to lead, to redefine success. Make the decisive move. Contact the Bradford Group and embark on a journey that sets you apart. Don't just meet the future, shape it with the R3 system. Act now. Your legacy awaits. The first R helps you to refocus. Refocus with who you are, all your skills, all your talents, all your gifts, all your knowledges, understanding your what factor, your so what factor, and being committed to it, being wedded to it. Then the second R is reframing, realizing that, as Martin Luther King said, develop your blueprint of your life. You are the architect of your life. You are the architect of your business. You are designing this framework in which you are operating in, and realizing that no one is in your lane but you. You bring people in who you want to be in. And as George Fraser says, if you don't want them there, you bless and release them. And then the third R is reconnect. For me, that was the hardest part. I had the refocus. I had already redesigned, but I had been so broken through the life's trials and tribulations that I didn't know if I really believed in myself enough to reconnect in my own vision and plan that I had for my life. How many of you can relate to that? Where your dream is so big, your goals are so wild and crazy that you start to second guess yourself. Well, I'm telling you, it's okay. Give yourself some grace. And when you're in that reconnect point, to dust yourself off and to rise up and look at that framework and tell yourself, this is my framework for my life. This is my life blueprint. This is my business blueprint. And I'm going to take all these great skills and experiences and knowledge and resources, and I'm going to put them in this framework. And now I, as a leader, I'm going to step in this framework. And I'm going to lead with precision. I'm going to execute with excellence. And I'm going to believe without a doubt that when opportunity intersects with my vision, that success is inevitable. I am LaWanna Bradford, and it has been a pleasure to be with you today. I wish you well. Be safe.